So here's a few news articles. This I've been hearing about for what seems like the last couple of years. The cyber ninjas were hired to do this so-called audit of the ballots in Arizona, but they were a bunch of complete clowns that had no idea what they were doing. They were just throwing around the ballots and the ballot election voting machines, ruining them all, so they couldn't be trusted anymore, and they had to be discarded and replaced, and doing a sloppy count that didn't mean anything, and finally concluding that Trump lost the state by an even bigger margin than before, even though they'd been totally hired by the Trump campaign to somehow twist it so Trump won. But the Republicans in Arizona, the legislators, the senators, are still in love with the cyber ninjas, and they're deciding to change their policies based on what the cyber ninjas told them, even after the company is completely dissolved, after having vast financial misdeeds in addition to their utter incompetence in every other way. So now they've decided that all ballots must be counted by hand. You can't use any computers anywhere. So that's not a terrible thing, I suppose. It'll waste some time, but I mean, hand counting is fine. That's what you do to back up the computers. So anyway, we'll see what happens. I know what a lot of people are afraid of course, is what Trump threatened, is that he will just have states override the votes and declare the votes fraudulent and declare that Republicans won whether they won or not, which is what he tried to do last time with Raffensperger, and has been, it would seem like Arizona would be a place where you probably could get away with that. Anyway, we'll see what happens. But we are living through the shake and collapse of apparently American democracy. It does seem like a large portion of Americans no longer believe that our elections count, and that we should just have people appointed after ignoring the ballots, as long as the ballots are physical. I know, that's right. I mean, physically counting the ballots and just voting on paper is a perfectly fine system. But if those don't have the preferred candidate win, then the states have the option of just ignoring the ballots. That's how I'm interpreting the election law, which has not been reformed yet. That's the next step of election reform. And it looks like, I don't know if they're going to get to reform that either. Anything the Democrats want to do, they have to do really fast, because they're going to lose the majority in the House in November. And after that, the Republicans will snarl everything up and probably stop all further progress. They promised to impeach Biden 3 times, and they're talking about making Trump the head of the House. So anyway, when Hillary Clinton won the popular vote but lost the electoral vote, well, yeah, that's happened a few times. You could say it happened with Al Gore, too. Yes, that's why we've been actually on some suspicious lists of a highly questionable democracy for quite a while, because of our strange system where you can win the popular vote but still lose. But at least those are the rules we always had, and people would accept victory or loss upon those rules. But since Trump, he now claims that all elections are fraudulent, that he doesn't win, and that the whole 75 or 80% of all the Republican voters believe him. So that indicates a loss of faith in our voting process, which seems to be a fatal blow to democracy. I don't really know how you recover from this. If your people don't trust the voting, then I think you don't have a democracy anymore. You hold an election, somebody wins, and the people don't accept that that person really won. I don't know where we go from here. We're going to live through it and see. So the Trudeau regime is very worried about this trucker protest that just happened, where they would shut down an important bridge in an important city in Canada and freeze up everything for a long time, until they finally had to send the police down to arrest them and impound the vehicles or something like that. I don't know exactly what they did to get them to go away. One podcast I read said the police actually wouldn't do anything, and so a bunch of citizens went on like bicycles and blocked the trucks with their bicycles, and that's what actually got rid of them, suggesting that the police were actually in on the protest. But anyway, somehow they made it stop, but now they're worried about the money that funded it. They tried to fund it with a GoFundMe, but GoFundMe froze their account when they found out it was being used for an illegal protest, and so then they used cryptocurrency, and so now the Trudeau government is now declaring they're going to have new laws under emergency powers to prevent money flowing into illegal protests, even if it's coming through cryptocurrency, which is an interesting thing to say in the law, but I do not understand how you implement it in practice. The whole point of cryptocurrency is it moves over a computer network and you can't really stop it. But I guess we'll see. So there are updates for Mac OS and iOS, the phone OS, the Watch OS, all the versions of iOS. They say it's very serious and people should update. So I've been updating my stuff, which has caused a few little problems, but nothing too bad. Another interesting thing going on, the Durham investigation. Yes, absolutely. I've been hearing a lot about this. This seems to be completely bogus on both sides. It seems like the original evidence of the Durham investigation was somebody was just doing normal network monitoring of the White House traffic, and they found some traffic which somebody thought was going from the Trump campaign to a Russian bank, but it was extremely unclear that it had any real data. It was just like a DNS lookup or something, and so it seemed like the people on the left tried to blow that up into saying that was proof that Trump was collaborating with Russia, and then Trump fought back by saying that proves that the Democrats are spying on me. But the Durham thing, the Durham legal document sent in a couple days ago seems to be completely bogus and seems to be referring to DNS lookups that were actually under the Obama administration and falsely claiming that they happened under the Trump administration. But Trump is now calling for Hillary to be executed for daring to spy on him when the evidence doesn't even show that anybody spied on him. Didn't even happen when he was in office. And anyway, and it's nothing significant anyway. What anybody says is just standard DNS monitoring, which is a standard thing you do to block things like phishing and such. So anyway, it just seems like both sides have tried to blow this nothing up into something. And the amazing thing to me is, does anybody care about Hillary Clinton anymore? I mean, the best analysis I heard of it was that the point of this is that Fox News polled their viewers and said their viewers really want to hear people being mad at Hillary. So it's just a publicity stunt for Fox News to put on a program that their viewers will watch. But why does anybody care about Hillary Clinton? She's not running again. She doesn't matter. She's out of the race. Is it really going to change how anybody votes to throw mud on Hillary Clinton, even if you find something good? Anyway, I tend to be with like the establishment Democrats like Mitch McConnell saying, will you just shut up about Hillary Clinton and about the 2020 election and talk about the future? Nobody wants to relitigate the last two presidential elections and argue about who would have won. Who cares? There's like stuff we could be doing now. Why don't you talk about the future? Anyway, well, the main thing is Trump just wants to constantly fight about the old ones, which is, I think, that's why the next election is going to be a race to see who can lose, not a race to see who can win. It's whether Biden is so incompetent and worthless that you hate him enough to vote for Trump, or whether Trump is such an idiot that you hate him and vote for Biden. That seems to be what it's going to be. Because, I don't think I called Moscow Mitch a Democrat. But anyway, I think Trump is going to whine about previous elections instead of talking about the future, and I don't even think most of his supporters want to hear that nonsense anymore. And Biden is very disappointing in many ways, so it's going to remind me of Trump versus Hillary, because at that time they said both of these people are extremely unpopular, but they're running against somebody that is as unpopular, so they might actually win. But it's not like anybody actually wants either of them. The majority of people want none of the above in both of these contests. Anyway, all right. And long COVID is this thing that can go on for a year or more after you've had COVID. And these people in Israel think it comes from your vagus nerve being damaged, the vagus nerve being a big nerve that affects your digestion and many other things. So if that's proven out with further tests, they might begin to understand what causes long COVID and perhaps find some way to treat it. It certainly is true that for some people, COVID does some permanent damage to various parts of your body and leaves you disabled. Microsoft is opening up their offices this month. Many people are resuming normal activities. California is going to drop the mask mandate later this week. So we'll see what happens. If it's going to be like what happened in Europe, there'll be a gigantic wave of Omicron 2, the BA2 variant, just causing us to lock up again. That's what I expect. But we're going to see. Anyway, that's enough of the news.